Everybody, JB back with you once again, and welcome to this episode of JBLP1. We are on level 46, Sink Your Teeth, which I just noticed has the password Vlad on it, so maybe we're a vampire and we're sinking our teeth into some bloody chips here. Okay, that's kind of dark. Anyway, welcome back. I'm turning my sound on to be safe. This is one of the levels that I added to the set after the 100 level version. And much like Chip's Teeth, this is another example of something where the title pretty much made the idea. I wanted to make a level with the title Sink Your Teeth, and obviously it was meant to be about getting teeth into water. Yeah, I was not the biggest fan of this, guys. It wasn't obvious by now. This isn't really the most innovative idea. I mean, maybe the title was meant to kind of sell this more than what it actually did, I guess. But I feel like if I made this now, I'd probably try to develop the idea of sinking your teeth a little more than just the kind of repetitive stuff I did here. One thing I did do to kind of mix it up a bit was I varied the sizes of the different squares here. So you'll notice that some squares are, like this one's 6 tiles long and wide, whereas like some of the other ones have been bigger and smaller that we've been to. I don't know. It is what it is, I suppose. I mean, it's not a terrible level, but it's kind of a little repetitive. Okay, this is a big old square here. Big old room. The blobs are also here just to kind of give this level something else that kind of makes it stand out a bit. I don't remember seeing a whole lot of levels with teeth and blobs both in them. I guess I also made the water squares different sizes too. Okay, we only have one left, and yep, it's right here. Thankfully, there's a big old water square there. Alright. So yeah, nothing to write home about, but it's at least a fun melee level, I guess. Not one of my personal favorites, but it is what it is, right? Jungle Fever. Okay, so this level was another new one that was added in after the 100 level version. This one was my attempt after CCLP1 and after the runaway success of Frozen Labyrinth in its voting cycle. This was my attempt at making a maze that kind of had that sort of feel. And I think what I was specifically going with here was, hey, you know, this looks like a maze, but you can break through stuff. Sort of. You also have a teleport here you can go through. But these force floors are kind of meant to be a sort of one-way barrier. Like right here, you specifically have to go into the corridor to get that chip. But then once you get out, you then have to go back into the teleport to get back in there, so you better make sure that you have a pretty good handle on that section before you just leave. Looking back on this, I feel like maybe this could have been better served by a smaller size. That's one thing that I appreciated a lot about like Andrew Menzies' levels is I feel like he was one of the biggest champions several years ago of making levels that were like 30 by 30 instead of like 32 by 32. A lot of people, I don't think, realize this, and I certainly didn't until he brought it up. But having that extra 1 or 2 squares as like the radius of your level can extend it by a very significant amount, much more than you might expect. And like if you were to count all the squares as a percentage, like take Repair the Maze from CCLP1 and count all the squares on the outside of that level, and then like count all the stuff on the inside. Obviously the ones on the inside will outnumber the ones on the outside, but the percentage total of outside compared to everything isn't trivial. It's actually pretty significant. So looking back on this, I kind of wish I made it smaller. Not to mention that it's kind of a little one note, but I mean, that's not a bad thing. But I feel like I've kind of also come to appreciate like 2 layered mazes. More recently, I made a a level called Aquatica in JBLP1, which was named after the board game of the same name. And it had this idea where you kind of went through a maze like that where you had flippers and there were force floors, but you also had to push blocks into the water, which was the non-force floor element. And then you got rid of your flippers and got suction boots, and then had to walk on the force floors plus the stuff that you did, the paths that you did to connect everything. Personally, I think that's a much better level than Jungle Fever. I think it's more interesting. But I feel like Jungle Fever is a decent or like simple maze, so I went ahead and submitted it for CCLP5. I also forgot to open all this up, but oh well. But yeah, this is Starry Night, and this is actually a good opportunity to talk about something that I've been wanting to address here, because it came up in the CCBBC Discord the other day. Let's see, it's this one. Okay. Get those. I can't remember how strict that is. I feel like you need both the keys down here, though. Yeah, you definitely need them here. But the topic came up recently. Are walls of levels better than non-walls of levels? And Jeffrey and Josh and I all answered, and basically all said in so many words, it all depends on the idea that you're running with. Personally, I feel like it all kind of depends on the starting point that you run with as well. And I think walls of levels have a tendency to kind of start with the... wasn't there a hint here? Let me find it. Maybe there's not. I thought there was a hint here. Maybe that's only in the CCLP1 version of this. Walls of levels tend to start with the layout as the starting point, whereas non-walls of levels start with the idea as a starting point. Now, I think there can be a collision of those two things, and that's, you know, usually something that can accelerate a level's development. But as an example of the latter option, where the idea comes first, this level I think is a good example of that, because I had an idea of making a level where you had a whole bunch of star-shaped things against like a nighttime sort of aesthetic. And then from there, I started making, you know, different little challenges in each one. But it kind of started with, I want this aesthetic to look a certain way, and I want it to have 4 different and distinct areas. And I want the, you know, outside of those areas to be all gravel and everything. And then from there, it was kind of like, okay, we'll just make 2 of them dodging challenges and we'll make 2 of them navigation challenges. So that was kind of how that started. Mini pyramid. Ooh. This was one where the layout definitely came first. I modeled this level very specifically after the jetpack level of the same name, which... I don't know if a lot of people realize that. I may have mentioned it in my jetpack Let's Play. But, yeah, this level... the jetpack level is nothing like this. But, it kind of had this little pyramid that was very horizontally oriented. And so I thought, oh, you know, I'll start with that as a CC1 level idea, and then... That's kind of how this came to be with the checkerboard and everything. It's still a level I have a soft spot for. It's funny because I remember for CCLP1, I feel like this level kind of had a bit of a mixed reception. There were some very picky voters that I think really liked this one. And then there were some people who were like, you're just pushing some blocks around, that's okay. But I feel like since this was included in CCLP1, we've had a rash of blocks with chips under them levels, and I feel like Jeffrey has been a huge proponent of that sort of thing. I know he in particular likes this level, and I don't think he was even around during CCLP1 voting. He only came around like after that, so I could be misremembering that, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. But yeah, I started with like the layout of this one first, and then the idea came after that. So falling. So this one, I want to say was added in after the 100 level version of this was done. Actually, no, because this was in CCLP1 voting, I'm pretty sure. But this is a time crunch level where you basically have to get all these chips. The first room, you have to make sure your flippers aren't stolen from you. But after that, you basically go down this little, kind of like quincunx from CCLP1. You just kind of go down it multiple times to make sure you get everything. And watch the clock, make sure you're not running out of time. So it's kind of a route efficiency puzzle. I think it's cool. It's not like the greatest thing ever, but it kind of inspired Slide Quest in JBLP2, which kind of had a similar thing where you had to go through the same sort of force floor slide set every time, but you also had recessed walls, so the path narrowed every time. So I think that's a kind of a better evolution of the idea, but I still like this one. It's pretty decent. Ice Clover. Okay, so this is interesting because this was one of the levels in this set that was around during the JL1 era. And earlier today, I actually went back through JL1 just to look at some of the levels in there. And this one, I completely forgot some of the things I did for this one. But this actually used to have a recessed wall ring in the middle, like right here. And basically you were forced to like pick and complete a room and then route yourself back through the center whenever you completed like additional rooms and whatnot. And like it was very strict. There was also fire on the edges, like I think like right here and like right here there was fire. Personally, I don't know why I did that. I'm not the biggest fan of that sort of thing. Like if you don't need to have it. Like there was even one part where you couldn't even see where the path led, where you would die from the fire, which is totally not cool. But I'm kind of glad the level got revamped. I kind of like what it does, and I still have a soft spot in my heart for this one. It's definitely very derivative in terms of the maze concepts here. I mean, this is very much inspired by Double Maze. All the levels kind of have a sort of rink-esque sort of thing going on. I guess Ice Cube from CC1 is also a pretty good comparison point, too. But, yeah, this is sort of my attempt at a maze back during the JL1 era. A lot of these things... Oh yeah, the other thing was this section had blocks with chips under them at first instead of the teleports. Also, how do you get out of here? There we go. So I think all we have left to do is just get the stuff in the corners, so let's do that. Oh, the toggle wall section. I need to do that too. Yeah, I'm kind of glad the recessed walls are no longer here because you get a lot more freedom just exploring around, which I think is kind of nice. I don't think the level technically looks like a clover, but... Whoa, almost totally died there. But I think the shape kind of evokes that, so it works. But anyway, getting back to the Walls Up discussion, a good example of a level that started out with a layout that then inspired the idea was Crown Jewels from Walls of CCLP1. I don't know if I would have come up with that level had it not been for Mindlock and what Lesenath did with that. Like, that was a really cool layout to use to come up with a puzzle for, and I was really glad I got to use that, because I don't know if I would have thought of Crown Jewels without that. Alright, Colorful Archipelago. So this level, funnily enough, was inspired by... Oh, what was the name of it? It was like that one bridging level from Chuck's Challenge where you kind of had to set up a bridge in preparation for going over to that point. Legend speaks of a distant isle where flippers are abundant. So there is kind of a red herring in this level, or a blue herring, where you can try bridging down over here, and there's like an island with a ton of flippers in it. And basically, you can't really get there. It's meant to be kind of unreachable. But the solution I intended for this level was you're supposed to basically start the bridging process over here by like pushing this into there, and then you can push this over up here, and then using this you can just bridge it back. There are alternate ways to do this, and I just realized I completely messed this up, I think. Did I mess this up? I thought this was the way to do it. Maybe not? Hang on. Well, at any rate, I can just go back this way. So I guess that's kind of a bit of a bust. I'm pretty sure the original intent was for you to bridge back and make a circle, but at any rate, there is an alternate solution that I think Random 8 found, or Ryan found at one point, where you could kind of make a bridge that is sort of like what I did, but you can also like bridge to the middle. And I recently made an update to this level in my CCLP5 submissions where there's a chip that's positioned in that spot, so you kind of have to think creatively to get there. I don't know if I'm sold on that solution yet, and the fact that it's forced in that version, but I figured it would make the level a little more interesting, so I updated it recently to reflect that. Ooh, Pangea. Okay, this one has an interesting story behind it. So remember back, I think it was in the last video when we went through juxtaposition and we talked about how that level was originally titled Element Mix-Up, and it had kind of a triple maze kind of thing going on. Well, back when I abandoned the element mix-up idea, I decided to use that title in this level. And so I made this level way back in the, I think it was the John L1 era of level design. And yeah, this one's a pretty old level, but it was also badly busted and not very well designed. So the ultimate objective is that we're supposed to get those suction boots. That we won't be able to do that until the very end. But originally, in the initial version of this area here did not have these walls. And so you were able to do like a nail off of a block that you would get, and then just boost it into the exit, because there would be dirt here and a block here, and you can just go boom right there. And it was not a very good setup. So I eventually had to wall off that section. This right here was also a blind death point, so I eventually moved that back a spot. Yeah, there was a lot wrong with this level. I'm much happier with this version. It's not like the most mind-blowing thing ever, but I do like how it kind of uses the elements in a different sort of way than I think most people are used to seeing them. I think this is one of those gripes I have, but I'm normally not the biggest fan of... Oh, okay, I thought there was something there. I think we missed something in this route. Normally I'm not the biggest fan of like levels that neatly segment elements. You know, like I typically refer to the 4-element quadrant kind of level trope in designing stuff. And I don't think it's like a bad thing inherently, but I do think it can kind of get a little, what's the word, procedural feeling, you know, where everything feels very just kind of by the numbers if you're not careful with it. I really like the aesthetic of this section, where it kind of has a fire and ice thing. Kind of the whole vibe of this level I really like, and so here you're supposed to figure out that you have to specifically put that block there for this fireball to even survive that. And you can't block slap it in links. I think that was another bust that was a problem initially. So now the fireball's pressing this so we can go in here. And then we can get this guy. And then we can get this one. See, I eventually removed Element Mix-Up as the title because, honestly, it kind of sounded a little generic to me. I'm also trying to remember where I had this block that eventually led to the bust. I think it wasn't hidden like it is there. This section here, I'm pretty sure, was not in the original level. This was added in later, this little blue wall thing. I like the fact that you can go out here into this area. And then with this block, you can finally blow up the bomb. So yeah, this one, it's not the most original or mind-blowing level, but I do like what it does. I think it's pretty decent. I went ahead and included it in my CCLP5 submissions, just because I think it establishes like usage of boots pretty well. It's got all the different elements, and I feel like it uses them in a pretty neat way. I guess it doesn't have ice skates, but that's fine. You know, you don't really have to have everything. Ooh, Critter Craze. So this was another level, and I think it was in the 100 level version of this set. And I want to say it existed, yeah, it definitely existed in the JL1 era. This was toward, so I had a bit of a level design kind of stint toward the end of JL1 where I intentionally made a bunch of easier levels because I felt like things were getting a little too hard. I think Tom Rowe had a similar thing going on in Tom R1 where he made a bunch of very difficult levels early on, and then he kind of lightened things up as time went on from there. So I was kind of inspired to do something similar for my set. And that's where this level, among a few others, came into the picture. And if you couldn't tell by the little outer area that we just explored, this was meant to look like a bug, in the shape of a bug that you would see in like MSCC. This was sort of also inspired by some of the kind of tile artwork levels, like Spy from CCLP2. I remember there was kind of an obsession with making like pixel accurate artwork for levels like that. I feel like that era has kind of passed now, mainly just because I think more and more designers have realized that the gameplay needs to come first and not like what the level looks like in the editor. But I made a level that was kind of in that vein called Swimming Ship back in the JL1 era, where it looked like a swimming ship tile from MS moving north. And oh my gosh, there were like blind deaths in that level where you can slide into water from a distance on ice and all that. It was pretty bad. Alright, half and half. So this level was kind of meant to test my kind of misdirection skills when it came to making a maze. I'm curious to see if I'm going to remember the layout for this, because there are a few points in this level where it's going to look like one direction makes more sense, but it's really the other one. And I'm curious if this is it. No, that is the wrong one. Okay. This is also kind of a time crunch level, but yeah, this is a two-layered maze with like two different mazes. You're halfway through the first half. I thought that hint was kind of funny. I don't know why. But yeah, I submitted this for CCLP1. I don't think it's going to get into any sets from this point forward unless we make a CCLP 0 or something. Yep, that's definitely a dead end. But yeah, I thought I would make a level where it's kind of like, hey, this looks like it'd be the right way to go, and then it ends up being a complete waste of time like that one there. That one goes on for a little while, too. Of course, you have some ice things here, too. Alright, so now we have to listen to the thief noise here. Okay, so that's nothing. And then we have, let's see, is it this way? No. Alright, hey, we got it. Now we can listen to the lovely ding sound here. Ding, 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 ding. I really like the sound effect in MSCC, the boink noise, much more than this sound. I need to replace my sound effects with those ones. Anyway, I feel like we were talking about something and I totally got sidetracked here. I guess I could give an update on how the Walls of CC1 project is going. So yesterday marked the 1 month point from the day I started designing levels for the set. Quad, this is another one that was an easy level, and it kind of has a 4 corner thing going on here, but I feel like these are not like element specific. The elements are more those paths down there. This was definitely meant to be kind of a CC1-esque level of sorts. And I really like this trap button thingy here. But anyway, yeah, so December 23rd was the day I started designing stuff for Walls of CC1, and today is January 24th, so yesterday was January 23rd. This room was inspired by Get a Clue from CCLP3. Okay, that was a little risky, but it worked. Whoops, I did not mean to miss that. And at this point, 1 month later, I've made 32 levels for the set, which places everything, at least for my levels, at 2/3 or 67% of the way done. Not counting the collaborative levels that we're doing. There are going to be 4 of those I'm going to be working on. And I gotta say, like, I'm so excited to share these with you all. It's going to be a lot of fun. I was thinking earlier today that maybe I'll do what Josh did and release some of them in like a compilation set, because I feel like I've got enough levels to do basically what Jeffrey and Josh have done in the past and make like a best of JB levels kind of thing. But I decided to hold off on that because I really want to. I don't want to take away from, you know, this set as a, you know, an experience. So I think I'm going to hold off on that. But one of the things that I was thinking about the other day was, breathing room. This was my attempt at making a tiny level for CCLB1 voting, and it actually got in. A fool and his fire boots are soon parted. I feel like I reused that hint in like Sunday morning from CCLP, or Walls of CCLP1. So the point of this is that you're supposed to avoid that until you get past this thief little mechanism there. But yeah, I was thinking the other day, because at this point we've pretty much divvied up all the remaining wall templates. I think I mentioned before that we were trying to specifically be fairly even in our use of the templates in each decade. So like we'll try to use like 3 templates a piece from each decade, and one designer gets 4. Walking on Broken Glace, I think this was added in. This was like right before CCLB1 voting when this was added in, because I remember kind of being a bit secretive about this level, and then Tyler really liked it when I released it. But yeah, this is my attempt at making kind of a blue wall level that's not really like a all blue wall maze, and it has some dodging in it with this glider path that basically loops around the whole level. So I like this. It's kind of a simple maze concept, but it's a fun one. Anyway, I think I missed this back here. I was definitely thinking about this whole topic of, you know, what wall templates do you pick, being kind of a, like, what informs that exactly. And I think for me it kind of comes down to potential. Like there was a situation about a couple weeks ago where I thought I had an idea for a template, and then it ended up going nowhere, and then I asked Josh, hey, do you want to trade, you know, this one that you were thinking of doing for this other one? And he was like, yeah, you know, that I have an idea that I think would work. And he whipped up a level in like an hour or so, or 2 hours. And I was just so shocked, because I thought, I didn't even think anybody could do anything with this template. And Josh was able to work wonders out of it. And I was able to work with the other one that he was kind of feeling stuck on too. And it was that kind of thing where I was like, you know, sometimes you have ideas in the moment. But I think for me, like, there have been some of these layouts where it's kind of come down to, what do I see this becoming? And I think for those, that's kind of where I start looking at some of the quote-unquote bad templates, you know, the ones that often are based on an element of the level, so it's not really like a wall level, it's more like a water level or an ice level or a thin wall thing. And you know, I kind of start from that point of where do we go from this, and what kind of potential can we, you know, see in this, and then from there we start, you know, I start exploring ideas and whatnot. Where is this blue key? I don't know where this blue key is. So that's kind of how I've picked some of the ones I've worked with later on. Okay, so it's there, I think. So at this point, among the 16 levels I've got left, I've got ideas for about 7 of them, 7 or 8 of them, and then the other ones I'm still kind of working on coming up with stuff for. And I think that latter set of levels is more than likely going to be fairly easy stuff. This is something else I've kind of noticed about a lot of Walls of stuff in terms of the projects that have been done up to this point, is I've noticed a lot of designers kind of tend to start with the ideas that they have, you know, brimming in their head at first, and then work their way from there and fill out the rest of the set with what the set needs to actually have variety and have a good pace. And I think at this point, we've been pretty cognizant of the variety and pace needs, and I feel like we can kind of let loose at this point. You know, we don't have to really be so self-conscious about, ooh, we need this many levels in the 110s, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, yes, there are needs around that, but I think there's a lot of flexibility that can be built into the set at the very end of the day. So I think we can kind of allow our creative juices to flow a little bit more organically now. We don't necessarily have to just stick with, you know, a very... I keep thinking of the word procedural today, but something that feels very segmented and very rigid in terms of defining what goes where. Flip side, so this was my attempt at making a walker level that could be submitted for CCLP1, and it got into the set as a level 80. And I think for this one, my whole premise working with this was, hey, you know, what if you could kind of change where the walkers ended up? You know, you can see there that there's one stuck right there, and it depending on where it's stuck, it could easily transition into another room. And I thought that was kind of a cool concept. And then, of course, you've got this teeth following you around that kind of makes life a little bit more difficult on you. So you have to kind of be on your toes for that. I don't know, there's something about teeth and walkers together that I personally really like. I think it kind of adds a little bit of chaos, and it prevents walker levels from being too just a matter of waiting, you know. Because I feel like it can easily end up with one of two extremes. You got the waiting heavy extreme, where it's all about, hey, you know, you gotta wait for the right time to squeeze in, you know, with a walker. And then you got the total chaos extreme, where it's just walkers, you know, and you gotta dodge them, kind of thing. And I feel like this is a nice middle ground between those two. So yeah, for these last 16 levels I'm going to be designing for Walls of CC1, I'm probably going to be spreading the difficulty out pretty evenly, because I feel like I've done a fairly decent job with that so far with the stuff I've made up to this point. A lot of the collaborative levels that we have yet to make, I'm expecting to be fairly late in the set. So yeah, we'll see how things turn out. Problem Solver. This was another one of the easy JL1 levels, and it ended up getting into CCLP3. The glider's your ticket out of here. Don't release it until the column of bombs is cleared. So the premise of this one is that you're supposed to destroy these 3 bombs, but you have to assign specific monsters to each area. And what you're supposed to figure out is that this clone machine needs to destroy that, and this clone machine needs to destroy the second one, and then the glider can... Or no, there's one more thing that needs to destroy the third one. I think it's a block. and then the glider ultimately ends up going into there. I thought that idea was kind of cool. I feel like for the time this came out, this was kind of a different take on monster manipulation. It's because a lot of monster manipulation at the time was just, hey, clear the dirt to send the monster in the right direction, kind of thing. And this sort of, I wouldn't say it turned it on its head exactly, but it gave a bit of a different sort of objective, or a different kind of part of the brain that was ultimately tickled as a result, I think. I think it's cool. Alright, so now the other toggle wall is on deck here. It's opened up, and so we can release this one. I really like this room here, because here you got to figure out that... Oh, we need the green key. Green key, where are you? You're here somewhere. Oh, here we go. You got to release that fireball first before you can even get that. You got to do this in order to get this block out, and then you can extract the other block. I like little things like that, little puzzles like that. I think they're pretty neat. Alright, so this one will ultimately end up in that other bomb. So we just need to push up here, and then we can let the glider free. I like that. It's pretty cool. And we're done. Alright. What's next? Blue Moon. Let's keep going. So this one I made back during the CCLP3 JL1 era. And basically this was a ripoff of sorts in terms of its layout of an escape level of the same name. In fact, there are 3 levels that kind of fit into this category. There was this one, there was Starry Night, and then there was also Sundance. And those two didn't even exist, I don't believe, until the CCLP1 era that this set was created during, in terms of that time period. I'm trying to remember how you do this, because I know that there's a bit of a trick to, like, partial posting here, I think. I think you kind of just have to go through the teleport and then go backwards. Oh, or maybe not, okay. I feel like we failed. I think we failed. Because, oh no, we were supposed to go the other way. It was the other way, because there was a path over there. That's the trick. So you gotta go here, and then you gotta get the other 2 keys that are down here. And then you can basically go this way, I think, to get this one. Yeah, that's how you do it. So yeah, the layout of this was inspired by that escape level, but the actual maze concept and the blue key thing and all that was all original. I really like this one a lot. I think it's a fun 61 Thrashathon level, and it's kind of fun layout. I do like the fact that this worked out for an ice maze. And I'm trying to remember how you get to the socket. How do you get to the socket? Okay, let's actually get our bearings. No, it's not down there. Oh, it's over there. Okay. There we go. Alright, Blue Moon is done. Parody bit. Okay. So this level was also inspired by an escape level back. I want to say was this created during JL1? I think it was. But my whole premise behind this, and I think the escape level's premise also ran with this as well, but I was trying to make kind of a sort of satire level, sort of poking fun at level conventions that were overdone. So there was a blue wall maze, there was an invisible wall maze, and obviously like these are meant to represent like very vanilla versions of these things. So like this invisible wall maze has nothing there. And then here's a chase race. I feel like these were conventions that were really popular during the pre-CCLP3 era of like CCLP2 and the years that followed. So a lot of the joking that this level is meant to kind of bring about is a little dated, you could say. But I still think it's, on its own, it's a decent level. It's not great, but it is something, I guess. How do you get over there? From up there, okay. I need to find my way back. Yeah, here we go. So this is an ice maze, complete with lots of winding paths and stuff. And then over here we have there's a bunch of monsters behind a toggle shield, and you don't want to press any of the buttons thing. And here's a room with a whole bunch of chips in it. The one twist I put into this room is that you have to actually press a button to get out, which should inform how you get in. And then we have a joyride here, and you gotta just make sure that you go left at the end, or you could just go into the teleport and just do it all over again. So, pretty fun level. Not really anything crazy good, but at any rate, chip off the old block. So this was one of the oldest levels in this set. I just cooked it. Way to go. This was around during the era of John L1, and it was called Venice as a reference to Amsterdam, since that level had a similar kind of design scheme with these little rooms, and then you had blocks that you pushed in. Recently, I was tempted to make a walls up level out of this for JBLP2. I still might do that. If someone else wants to try, feel free. But I thought this level kind of had an interesting layout because not all the areas were evenly sized. Like that one right there is all by itself. All the rooms are the same size, but like all the clusters of rooms are different size. And I thought that was interesting. Anyway, this is a very single concept level. It's nothing particularly great, and it's very derivative of the original source material. But I like what it does. It's pretty decent. Yeah, I feel like there were a lot of people who made kind of Amsterdam-esque levels back in the day. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure they existed. Maybe not with the ice, but with the block, like pushing a block into a room kind of concept. And then the exit's over there. You gotta get flippers to... Uh-oh. Well, hang on. How do we get down there? Yeah, the fact that there are some networks between the rooms that you can establish and potentially block off with blocks, I think is probably the more interesting part of this. Because Amsterdam mostly had a fairly static layout. I know the bold time kind of involves shaking that up a little bit. But for the most part, once you define what you push into a room, that's it. You can't really go back and do more with it, with a few exceptions. Okay, so we just have to get this and we're good. Alright, so that is the chip collecting, and now we get flippers and we can swim along the canals here of Venice. If I made this today, I'd probably be making, like, I'd probably put gliders to dodge that are like gondoliers or something. That'd be kind of fun. Alright, so that is chip off the old block, otherwise known as Venice. Alright, Randomonium. So this was my kind of attempt, I'm pretty sure this was made after CCLP1. This was my attempt at making sort of a traffic cop-esque level. And, whoops, I forgot those things did not die. And, like, unlike Traffic Cop, they do not die. So, you gotta basically, they come out of the cloner, and you gotta basically lead them over here to where all this is. And, the level itself, despite the rather random, chaotic theme, is fairly nice looking. I kind of have a comment from Rock in my head right now, because I remember back when I made this, he made a comment that this looks like it's supposed to be a chaotic level, but the design of it looks very nice and neat, you know, with this, especially with this area down here with the monsters and stuff. And I think he's kind of right about that. You know, it's definitely very everything looks very ordered, if that makes sense. Okay, so I think at this point we can try... Whoa, that was risky. We can try leading a monster into the... Whoa, area over there. If it doesn't go back. Come on. Come on, guys. I need you to go in there. Just go... I hear other bombs being blown up here, so... Can you just go this way? I'm worried we're going to get too many walkers here if this keeps up. Whoa! Okay, that was risky. Okay, we need to do something about this. Whoa, okay, what? Yeah, that was not great. Alright. Guess we're gonna have to, do this now. I probably should have started working with the blocks sooner than later. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and get a bunch of blocks over here. Okay. Come on, I need a walker. I need a walker to come in. Okay, there we go. That's what I needed. There we go. Lots of chaos. Maximum chaos. There we go. Okay. Not exactly too difficult, but... I think this was also kind of my attempt at making like a suicide-esque level. I think I was thinking about that as well. I was really proud of the title. I don't know if that was original or if that came from the level title bank, but... at any rate, Shambles. This was a post-CCLP1 era level that came during the 149 level iteration of this set. And this is a good example of how not to make a Walls of level. Because I made this level kind of by itself, and then Mika ran the Walls of CCLP1 competition, or CC1 competition on CC Zone. And I remember I was very lazy, and I just thumbed through all the templates in CC1, and I noticed that South Pole had a single wall, and I figured, hey, you know, I could just modify this level and insert that wall in there. Boom, we can submit this. And sure enough, this got like last place or so. And deservedly so. That was not really a proper Walls of level, and I shouldn't have done that. But I thought, hey, it technically is a Walls of level. I put a wall in it, and yeah, that was not the case. But since then, I've realized that Walls of levels should probably actually use the layout in an interesting way. And I know... I think I just cooked it, didn't I? Yeah, I don't see a way to salvage that. Let's restart. I know Joshua Bone for his great train robbery level in his set, and also CC2LP1. He used the South Pole layout's actual layout, like all the ice corners and all that, to make the railroad tracks and everything for that one. And Josh recently, and I'll mention this because he previewed this level in the Discord, but he made a level for our project where he took the ice corners only, and he basically made like a thing where he had to clear up a path for a tank, which I thought was a really cool concept. Okay, how do we get in to get this one? I think it's... No, it's not that way. Why am I having so much trouble with this level? My brain must not be working at this time of the night. I normally go to bed early because I have to get up early for work in the morning. Okay, it's this way. There we go. Okay, so this one's going to be interesting. So we go this way. But yeah, ever since that South Pole debacle, I've kind of been like, okay, if I'm going to make wall sub-levels, they better be actually interesting. And they better use the layout well. That's one thing I've been kind of fighting when it comes to this walls of CCLP, or CC1. I keep saying CCLP1. This whole project has been, a lot of the layouts of CC1 are very open-ended. They either have a lot of open room, or they don't have room, or a combination of both, where there's like a narrow corridor followed by a bunch of open space. Like 3 doors is probably one of the most infamous examples of this. And I think the challenge that I'm having with this right now is, well, 2 challenges. One of them is, how do I resist the urge to just make something that's, you know, that only partially uses the space? So in other words, it's going to have like a bunch of clone machines or something filling in the space, which I hate doing that. The other thing is, how do I use the space well without overscaling a concept? That's been, I fear, like the biggest thing about this set that's been difficult. I don't remember if I mentioned it during the start of this Let's Play, but one of the things I've been rather critical about with Joshua Bones' Walls of CC1 set and CC2 is that he often used only part of the templates in some of his designs. And at first I was kind of like, why didn't you use everything? And now I can kind of see why, because a lot of these layouts just were not very friendly on that front. And I think I have to approach this from above here. So it's going to be interesting seeing how some of these come together. I feel like Josh has been really good about like only using the sections of layouts that can actually translate into a really good level. Whereas like if there's a long path that, you know, doesn't necessarily need to be used, you know, sometimes he walls it off, you know, that kind of thing. Or uses the aesthetic of the level to his advantage in those sections. Alright guys, we've done 20 levels for today, so I think that's a pretty good stopping point. So next time we're going to take on a CCLP4 level, actually, Science Museum. So we'll see you then. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves today, and I'll catch you on the next one. So take care, and I'll see you then.